Hi everyone, we're wrapping this series of videos for Brain Awareness Week with a basic introduction to the concept of pain. Pain is something that emotionally and physically affects us all, and it is largely controlled by our nervous system, adding to the list of super important things the brain oversees. First, let's start with this question. What is pain? Pain is a special sensation, typically an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with potential tissue damage. This can come from a variety of stimuli, including pinching, extreme temperatures, acid burns, or tissue inflammation. We detect pain through sensors called nociceptors. These neurons tend to be free of nerve endings and are activated by fairly intense stimuli capable of creating tissue damage, meaning less intense stimuli might still activate other sensory receptors, just not nociceptors. And it's also important to note that there's this closely related class of receptors called itch sensors, which obviously trigger the desire to scratch an itchy area. The border between nociceptors and itch receptors is one that is still unclear, although there is suggested overlap because of the observation that pain tends to inhibit itching, which incidentally explains why it feels good to scratch an itch. Aside from receptors, axons that transmit pain are also important in contributing to the sensation. Most of these axons are thin, unmyelinated C fibers, with the majority of the rest being thicker, myelinated A fibers. This difference, myelination versus unmyelination, explains why pain comes in both slow and fast varieties. Sharp and fast pain comes from myelinated A axons because myelination speeds up signal transmission, and dull, typically long-lasting and difficult to locate pain comes from unmyelinated C fibers. These axons both transmit signals through a similar pathway, from where they are located in the periphery to the dorsal horn in the spinal cord. Pain signals are then passed on through the spinal cord to the central nervous system and the appropriate areas in the brain. This pathway can be either ascending or descending. An ascending pathway will follow what I just mentioned, carrying sensory information from the body via the spinal cord to the brain, while descending pathways would carry sensory information from the brain via the spinal cord to reflex organs, simply meaning organs that will initiate a physical response to the sensation. It is also important to note that pain doesn't come only from the skin. For example, headaches are common types of pain that tend to originate from the head. Digestive discomfort is also a common form of internal pain. Internal pain in general is called visceral pain. These types of pain are hard to localize, which can be problematic for treatment. This leads us to the next important part of pain, modulation and treatment. For this, we commonly use analgesics or pain relievers. Powerful analgesics include morphine and various codeine derivatives, such as hydrocodone and oxycodone. They are derived from opium and poppy seeds and work by binding to natural opioid receptors in the brain to suppress pain. As you might know, though, they also induce feelings of euphoria through activating dopamine and serotonin, making them addictive. These opioid receptors mainly do all of this in an important area of the brain called the substantia nigra and the substantia gelantinosa. In general, they suppress pain by delaying or even hindering the transmission of these nociceptive signals so that pain is not perceived by the brain. There are also multiple circuits that modulate pain. One theory is the gate control theory, as depicted in this diagram. It was first proposed by Milzak and Wall in the mid-1960s. The overall concept of this theory is that non-painful input closes the gates to painful input, which results in the prevention of pain sensation from traveling to the central nervous system. It is basically referring to the production of presynaptic inhibition that blocks incoming pain signals when it says closes the gates. This theory paints a general picture for how pain is modulated, which is simply by blocking pain signals. This is similar to saying that in order to block visual senses, you just need to close your eyes. However, it can also be dangerous to not have pain at all, because pain is there to remind you to be careful because of whatever stimuli caused the pain in the first place. And in addition, pain is different for everyone, hence why the definition stresses that it is a personal experience. Some things may cause pain to some people, while to others it feels like a simple touch of the skin. And in severe cases, some people may have hypersensitivity to pain, for example when you get a sunburn. This is called hyperalgesia, and it is basically the opposite of analgesia. What happens is that the pain action potential threshold for production or transmission of pain signals is significantly lowered so that even smaller stimuli can cause pain. Molecules such as prostaglandins also reduce inhibition in the spinal cord, making it easier for pain signals to reach the brain. Common treatments for this include non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or NSAIDs because they, as indicated in their name, reduce inflammation, a response that produces prostaglandins. And that concludes our brief introduction to pain. Remember that, like all of neuroscience, this is still an area where a lot of research is ongoing, and it is important that we learn more about how pain is perceived, differences between individuals, and how to deal with this peculiar sensation that is the cause of a lot of suffering around the world, yet is also essential for our survival. Thanks for listening.